So back with another episode of ZBrush for the iPad. Hope y'all have been having fun with this program. Again, long awaited, glad to have it here. Finally on the iPad. I mean, it's great on the desktop, but being able to sculpt on the go like this, and I know it's an introduction for a lot of you who maybe been using Nomad before and want to learn, how to do a thing or two on the iPad version of ZBrush. And the beautiful thing is a lot of this stuff transfers directly over to the desktop app. So if you ever decide to make the jump, then you're in a good place. So, here's a little head I sculpted last night. And, in a previous video, I was trying to do some poly painting, on the fly, directly, ready to go, and wasn't working for me. And so I decided, hey, let's do a video with poly painting now that I figured some stuff out and go from there. So, pick the model you want to paint on. So currently I have the eyes selected. And you can see there's already some green on there, and that's because when I did my Boolean, my subtraction shape was filled with that green color, so it subtracted it away, just kind of gave me a head start on the eyes. Watch the cat modeling video if you want to see how to do the Boolean. Now, with poly painting, it, just like it says, has to do with polygons. So your polygon count while you're painting is important. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up my menu, go to geometry, and again, bad habits, I want to do it the hard way, go to divide. You can just do it right down here as well, but we'll just go, and there we go. I'm still on the eyes. So select the head, divide. You can see that is a higher density now, so painting's gonna, look that much better. You can use any of your sculpting brushes as a paintbrush, but there's a couple things you need to do in preparation for that. So right now I'm on not the brush I want to use. I'm going to go to this standard brush, and if I hold down my little quick menu, you can see it's got some stuff on there. Oh, for some reason my pencil has decided to disconnect. And we're back. Okay. So we've got this menu here. We've got A, which I believe means all of these things. I may be wrong. But we want to unselect the A and just do RGB because we don't want to sculpt into this or anything. And just to be sure, make sure these are not selected, the Z add or the Z sub. That way now if I paint on this character, and it's definitely not the color I want, but you can see it's working. So that's the main key, is make sure RGB is selected. You also, in case it doesn't do it automatically, make sure that on your layer, this paintbrush icon has been activated, because that means that you can paint on it. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to pick a color. You can use this handy eyedropper. It's actually picking the color that's being used on the model rather than, a shade that we're actually seeing. So if I click over here, it's still the same color. It doesn't move. Well, this thing's making a liar out of me. It moved slightly, but it's not going to give me this darker color. So that gives me a starting point, and I'm just going to slide it over, get something a little warmer so that when I start painting here, it's going to match the flesh. You can see this little red line that's following my cursor, that's the lazy mouse. I actually haven't played with that here. So let's get in there. ZBrush, got auto masking. Okay. Is it under brush? Probably not. It's under like curve or stroke. There it is. Stroke, lazy mouse. So you can turn that off. Lazy mouse comes in handy when you're trying to draw something that is more exact, straight, that type of thing. It's like a built-in ruler of sorts or something that helps kind of constrain your mouse so that it won't pick up every little movement. So you turn that off and then it will, of course. So I'm just, having fun, going through. You can see the standard brush is acting like an airbrush, and that is due to this alpha that I'm currently using, which is the default. There's different alphas here, which is just a black and white image that tells your brush, how to function. So if you wanted a real hard shape, you could use the square or this circle. But for something like this airbrush type effect at a big setting is going to do the trick for me. And so right now we're just painting with color. I have a specific material selected over here. It's the matte cap gray. And so if I change the material, it's going to change the way these colors look. Say I went to the white matte cap and things look differently. So you might want to jump around between materials to get a feel for what it's looking like, and you can apply your final material later in the process. But right now, all we're focusing on is getting down colors. And so I'm moving all around the model, not trying to cover it, every little piece. I want some of that lighter flesh color to show up as well. Obviously, because this gives it more of a realistic, uneven skin color. Let's pick something else. Let's go a little more red, add some red coloring to the cheeks, the head, forehead, the nose is sometimes a little redder, of course, the lips. And so, this guy's starting to get a little life to him. The ears are going to be a little more red. Now, obviously, this is just the albedo or diffuse map. If you're thinking about it for 3D purposes, the color map, it's not painting in, subsurface scattering or translucency or all the fanciness that goes into helping model a 3D character truly look realistic. So if you're using this in a pipeline, you're going to add more to it in Blender or Maya or Cinema 4D or whatever. Pick your 3D application. Then you just want to do something like this, where you're focusing on the colors of the skin. You're not painting the lighting, We're getting the lighting from the lights, right? It's casting a shadow under the nose, under the eyes. But if this is just for concept art purposes, obviously you can paint in more dramatic lighting, shadows, and whatever. So, already, hopefully this gives you an idea of what is possible. Now that our skin is starting to have some variation and some interest, it's making the eyes look that much more flat and worse, right? So, at this point, you could jump over to the eyes. Let's make sure we got that selected. And, if I'm not careful, I'm going to paint on this white area. I don't know if there's a option to mask by Polypaint. Let's see if there is. Tool, masking, make mask by different features, mask by border, groups, crease. They're so powerful. Cavity, normal, smoothness, mask by color, mask by hue. Let's do that. Okay. So now the white area is masked out. So, these ZBrush people, they've thought about this stuff. So definitely check that action out. Okay. We're on the right tool there. Again, I'm going to pick a color using the handy dandy picker. So we're in the green area. Let's grab a darker version, change the size down, make sure we're in symmetry. Looks like we are. And we'll see how good this mask is. Looks like it's working pretty good. So just adding some dark coloration around the edge of the iris, maybe bringing that in a little bit, maybe a little bit around the inner edge of the iris. And you can finesse this as much or as little as you like. Now, this is more pixelated. Let's go ahead. I'm going to use the other way of dividing the material here and hit this. Let's divide that a couple of times. And now we've got better topology to paint on. But you know what? The fact that it was masked, did that mess things up? Yep. See, it just divided the area that wasn't masked. So that's kind of cool. Kind of not necessarily what I intended, but there you go. In case you wondered if that was possible or how to do it, there you go. It looks like my poly masks or, poly groups are there as well. So I could have masked that way. So I'm going to actually redo the eyes here. So let's back on out of here. The undos. Okay, I think we're there. There we go. No. Go on, get all this painting out. Okay. And then, so you're getting full treatment here. Let's go ahead and divide it again. I keep pushing the wrong buttons. Okay, so we've divided it a few times. It's at 1.31 million polygons, just the eyes alone. Okay, so now let's go back to masking. Masks by map. Well, yeah, if you recall from other videos, there's a certain way to do that. So I'm going to solo these eyes. We're going to go into help, this poly view feature. I'm going to grab these two guys, going to change this to select. There we go. happens to be hidden behind my finger there. Come on, select. Okay. All right. So now I've got selection here. And now if I click on the one I want to mask, there we go. Then I can invert it by drawing a square. Okay. Inverted. Check. Now with this mask button held down, I can tap. Now everything visible is masked. Now if I select both of these and tap, this is visible again. So now we have just the area we want to paint on that's unmasked. And let's unsolo. Let's turn off our poly view. You know, we still have the right color. This is darker because it's masked. So now we've started with a higher density mesh. I'm feeling a lot better about things. Go in here, paint, get the iris all done, and the beauty of it. So once we're done with that, we can just invert our mask, and the other portions of the eye will be unmasked. Oh man, photographic realism, am I right? Now obviously, depending on your character and how detailed it's going to be, you spend more or less time here, but this is a tutorial. I don't want to waste your time. Okay, now we're bringing in these super bright highlight spots that if you're looking at a real eye, you'll see that they're unique to everybody. They're in there. Some people's are brighter than others. Just kind of what you do as an observer of nature, because, you know, you're a sculptor, you're a painter, you're a 3D artist, whatever you call yourself. You need to be a student of the world around you. A lot of times just building this stuff up does a lot, you know, goes a long ways. I'm going to get an even darker color here. And you don't have to stick in the same grain palette. You know, you could bring in some hazels and some yellows, and that's going to make it probably feel even more realistic. So we're kind of losing our visibility of the pupil a little bit, because this is essentially the same color that I'm working with, but we'll figure stuff out. Just for good measure, I'm going to bring in a different color. Oh. You know, and you can change your opacity. So if you want to be at a lower opacity and just kind of glaze a different color over the top, you know, you could do that in ZBrush. Doesn't even look like I'm doing anything. Go a little too low, huh? So yeah, just quickly kind of rubbing it over there. Let's add in some interest. Let's add some brighter yellows. Oh yeah. This guy's got some intense eyes now. I have a tendency to go too far sometimes. Okay, so with the mask button selected, we'll just tap on the outside. Now the mask is inverted. You know, I might want to take my white color, just make sure things are clean as possible here around the edges. Increase the size. Just draw that white in, because there was a little bit of bleed over from the bullion process. Ooh, yeah, sharp. And eyes aren't actually white. You know, they're off yellow or off white, or maybe there's a tinge of blue in there. So, you know, feel free to do that. Here I am painting some yellow on there. Now, if this eye is going to move, you know, you want to solo that and get in those areas of the eye that were covered, paint in your veins, whatever you're going to do. It's all good. Let's grab a black. And you might argue like, oh, there's no real black in nature. Well, we're just using black. And we're going to paint in this iris area. And again, my opacity is a little low, so let's crank that back up. There we go. Now it's working. Okay, cool. Now let's unhide everything. Let's make sure we're unmasked. Whoops, unmasked, yep. Now those eyes are super intense, right? We can even make them more intense if we want. Let's grab a different material, something that's super glossy, like this toy plastic. Okay, and now the whole thing's toy plastic. So look, we're making this porcelain character. But what I want to do here is make sure the eye's selected. And I think I can fill a material. Which you can in ZBrush. Let's turn off RGB and just material. Okay. There we go. Feeling good about this now. And then, yeah. Where is it? Material. Or do we do it? Fill object. Okay. Let's see if that worked. Now we're going to go back to a different material. And it stayed on the eyes. You see how glossy those eyes are? Boom, first try. So now we're getting those little reflections, making this character already look that much more realistic, right? And let's do something different for our skin head material. It's this monster clay. Okay, that's not quite what I want. Basic material, maybe, blend. And the nice thing is you can go in and adjust these too. Fast shader, definitely not. Do? No. Skin shade, let's do that. Huh. Maybe there's a yeah, duh. Yep, skin shade's feeling pretty good, if you ask me. Cool. So at this point, like I said, it all depends on how you're using this as to how far you want to go. Let's say I'm using this as a concept artist. I've got this guy, he's going to be the hero of my animated feature. I want to get buy-off from the director on his look. So I'm in here painting him for that purpose. With that being the case, it's going to be darker brown. We're going to paint in hair, we're going to paint in all this stuff. And what the heck is going on, right? Well, if you'll recall, we're just on material, okay? So while we're on here, I'm going to make sure to fill this object so that it keeps the right material, okay? And then go back to here, unselect material, just pick RGB. If you did mRGB, it's going to paint material and RGB, which comes in handy, like if I wanted to use a different material for the hair or whatever, which I'm not going to bother, but paint that in. And this is definitely not supposed to be super realistic. This is me creating a cartoon character, like I mentioned. And it's concept art, so can be a little forgiving. I'm going to add some kind of darkness around the eyes because, that's how it is. Either you've got some mascara on or you've got hair or something. It may not be the exact right place, but this is, flexible scenario here. I'm working fast, just throwing down colors because I know I can go in and, he's looking a little trans right now, which is fine. That's what you're going for. We'll paint in some nostrils. I'm probably going to paint in some shadow, different things. And again, you got to trust the process. I know you're tempted to kind of get away from this channel in this video now that you've seen his face go so horribly wrong. But bear with me for a minute, and hopefully we'll bring it back to a place of sanity. And now I'm down myself. See how I'm using the same color on different parts of the face? That helps it feel more unified, and your colors work better that way. And this isn't like magic, push a button and your whole character's painted. This is digital painting. It's like having a canvas. And so, yeah, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some patience. It's going to take some trial and error. So get used to it. Another thing to note with your smooth is what that's going to affect. So right now my smooth is turned off. It's not affecting anything. Oh, it's affecting the Z-add. So I got to turn that off. But I want to smooth RGB. So you got to check yourself. So now look at that. I'm using my smooth brush. It's not smoothing the model. See? You're glad you stayed with me, right? You're just smoothing, you're blending those colors together. And so, surprise, surprise, it's looking a little more realistic and a little less like clown makeup. And you can continue to fix things. Let's grab our color again and, our base skin tone, and maybe paint out some of this stuff where the shading or whatever got a little too intense. And, the light would be hitting the top of the lid. So, getting a little bounce on the bottom area. And you could stop here and this is good, and you've learned maybe what you need to learn, and that's awesome. But if you want to take it further, do that. I'm getting close to calling it, because this is education. We're trying to pay it forward. I've been taught these things through the hundreds of videos like this that I've watched over the years since 2009, as I have learned this app that we call ZBrush, and now I'm excited to pay that forward, the next generation of ZBrushers. And that's not to say that you have to be young. You could be more mature, kid at heart that's learning something new. I'm all about that. And again, I'm just painting stuff in, getting colors essentially where I want them, and then I can always use the smooth brush to fade that in, make it look more realistic and less like hand-drawn sketches over top, and that may be the look you're going for. And if so, own it, you know. Feeling the need to get some highlights in here. So let's get another color from the lip. Let's brighten it up. You can see I'm always going back to my colors. I'm not just picking a random color from the color picker. I want to be close and stay within the same, same region on the color wheel so that it feels more natural. Painting in some highlights or some lighter areas to the flesh. And then I can go back to blur it in a little bit. That's okay. So this guy's got some intense eyes. He's got some intense lips. Well, maybe a little much. So, but hopefully you get the idea where we're going with this. What else can I show you here? Okay, so again, you've got these alphas, so we can use them to add some texture too. Let's pick alpha number 7, and I'm going to pick the hair color. And then increase the brush size. And then we're gonna, we've got this kind of dot pattern, but let's do something different. What's this? Color spray? No, just regular spray. Let's see what this does. Okay, we got a severe 5 o'clock shadow going. Okay. You can make your own alphas, so if you need a finer dot pattern, which I kind of would benefit from here, you can do that. There's also something like this. You can see that's just huge and wrong. Happens if I, may have the wrong choice here. Let's do, there's the drag stamp. Yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. Drag rect. Okay. So that's just giving us one big alpha. I don't know why it's not doing what I expect it to do here. Yeah, we're learning on the fly. I'm expecting it to give me this kind of pattern, but maybe this is a bug or I'm just missing something here. But it's just not really respecting that alpha. Huh. Okay, well, I'll look into that and see if we can figure out what's going on. But you can still do that. You can still do some shading. Z is off, yeah. Focal shift, a little bigger. Oh, yeah. I haven't shaved since yesterday, or this morning maybe, and he's just a beast and grows it quick. Looks like stereotypical robber or something, right? get in here and add some more shadow into things. And I'm going to even get crazy and go to the eye layer and add some more shadow there as well. But again, like, there's better ways to do this. If this is going to be, a model that you're going to use in production, and we can even do different, oops, we got to get back to the right layer, right model. We can even do different stuff here in ZBrush with rendering as well to get some more realistic shadows. And in a future video on rendering, I will share some of that. His head is going to have some hair shadowing similar to the face, unless he's really lost all of his hair. But if it's shaven a little bit, he's pulling a Jean-Luc Picard or something, then it's going to be a little bit more like this, unless he just shaved it moments ago. But like I said, he hasn't seen a razor in the better part of a day. My brother wanted to make an appearance in this video by sending me a text message, and I forgot to turn on my do not disturb. That's okay. That's cool. So we can blur that together. I think our blur is still out. We're still using RGB. And we can go a stronger blur. Make sure it's still using RGB. Yep. On the right layer. For some reason it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Another way to blend is to grab your color and or grab your color picker, get a new color. It's a lighter version of what you're working with, and start painting that in there. So as we run into little issues, because this is live, we're not pretending like we're infallible and we never make a mistake. Or that this stuff, once you've learned it once, you just retain everything perfectly and you never have to give it much thought again. Now, obviously, if you're using this stuff every day, day in, day out, it's going to become more that way, but my experience is that I'm jumping in and out of different programs, and I need to be doing a bit of a refresher, if you will. And that's just real. That's just how we do. And I think I mentioned this on another video. But we're getting kind of a dot pattern now because, we've got dots selected and I'm drawing pretty fast. So it's only leaving some tiny dots. So that's actually working kind of cool. But yeah, like I said in previous video, ZBrush stuff, man, like nothing else. I get lost in the sauce when I'm working on this stuff because it's just magical. It's just fun. It's like combines just so many fun disciplines into one thing. Painting, sculpting, world creation, character design, technical problem solving, list goes on and on. So again, to get kind of this stippling pattern that I got going here, which could be better, but it's doing the job for me. Just take some patience. I'm using a very small brush size and making sure I'm just on the dot mode and I'm moving pretty quickly across the surface of the model. Yep. So the main secret to this is patience. There are faster ways to get some of these effects, and better ways, and there are slower ways, and there are stages of this process where you could say, that's good enough, I'm done, let's call it. But in the end, no matter what method you're using or what part of the process, ultimately it comes down to patience and vision and just seeing a thing through. So again, this is what we're calling concept art. We've got our guy, hit BPR just for fun. You can see it added some shadows. It's definitely not what I wanted. I'd have to go in, like I said, rendering is another video. So there you go. We can turn on perspective. Whoa, creepy. You can change the perspective. Yeah, by holding this down, let's do 35 instead. There's our guy, he's just jumping out at us. We're getting extreme close-ups. Turn off perspective. All right, we're calling it. Hope this helped.